Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on August 8th, 2023 at approximately 4:23 p.m. PST. Now I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I offer are the same philosophies I personally guide my own life from one moment to the next by. With this in mind, we are not talking about tools and or outlooks that have not been tested that may or may not work. These are the same tools that have led me to go from extremely low self-esteem where I wouldn't even talk to my parents about what I was feeling, to very self-confident, a little outspoken, and certainly thinking way outside the box. Matter of fact, when people tell me I've got to learn to think outside the box, my first question is, where's the box? Because I just haven't found it. But what I can tell you is literally everything I do, everything I look at, you can remember how to see the exact same thing. Well, from your perspective. Now, do I remember past lives? Absolutely. Well, here's the thing, Eternity, and this I haven't watched any of the chatter. I have watched absolutely none of the footage, but I can tell you this: their entire array, I would lay odds, is based on human understanding of attack priorities and of attack methodologies, not on off-world. They are also looking at and gearing everything from the human technological level of things. Probably a little more advanced than what mankind is aware of in general. But they are looking at it from a human understanding, and therein lies the flaw. See, the first thing is this: if an alien invasion were to take place, and yes, you are absolutely right, I may be wrong. I'm not going to apologize for that side of it. And I'm telling you, don't take my word for it. Think it through. If they've got the capacity to travel light years in a matter of minutes, why would they use human-style weaponry? Why not use advanced weaponry? First and foremost, the first thing in any military advisor will tell you the same thing: cripple the communication lines. You've got the upper hand. Well, an alien invasion is not going to target one city. It won't target one area. An alien invasion will not worry about whether it's a holiday for a given group of people, whether it's a funeral, whether it's a celebration. It won't come into the equation. It will be, there's a planet, we're taking it. Now, the severity can depend, but the initial write-off, the initial impact will be done in such a fashion that mankind never even sees it coming. Mankind knows how to override its own radar and sensors. Now, if you think about it, if humans know how to override their own sensors, why would a race so capable of traveling light years to get here, why would they not be able to think beyond what humans think? How you doing that? Now, before I get any further there, I should have done this to start with. We have Eternity in the house with the gold. Then there is Chad Smith podcast with the silver. And Derek, you have come in with the bronze. With Chad being in here, of course, we do have to look at this. This is the link to Chad's live stream. So I absolutely encourage you, if I can get it to say that right, I absolutely encourage you to drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, give him a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Ferret, how you doing? Glad you decided to return. That's okay. I look at it this way, Derek. You may, or Ferret, you may. Let's see. You're in with honorable mention. Here's the way I work that is this: the people that let me know you're in the chat room. That's how I count things. And Henry, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, do understand, I have looked at none of the propaganda, none of the news reports on this purported alien invasion, and I have no intention of doing so. Okay, absolutely none. And here's why. All of it, when we start talking about an alien invasion or a potential alien invasion, let's go back to Ronald Reagan. Don't ask me what number president he was. Somebody else can figure that out. I know he was a president a number of years ago. I have no idea how far back. But you guys get to figure that out. But Ronald Reagan purportedly made the comment that what we need to unify the world is an alien invasion. War does not unify. War, all that does is give people a common enemy. That's it. It doesn't unify anybody. And you know this because every time a war ends, another one starts. Now, to the best of my understanding, the United States is something like, I don't even know how old it is at this point. Okay, but it's well over 200 years. And that said, okay, from my understanding, about 20 years ago, all but 7 years of the United States country's existence, all but 7 years has been spent at war. Clearly, war isn't working. Okay, now if we're looking at people from another world, they don't play by the same rules. Okay, they just don't. When you're taking out an ant's nest, when a homeowner is taking out an ant's nest, nobody thinks to check who the ants are worshiping, who they're sleeping with, or whether or not they're having a holiday. Okay, because ants do their own thing. Mankind comes along, goes, okay, we're done. That's the same way higher life forms have looked at war since time immemorial. Now, the lower life forms, such as man, and I realize that's probably going to be taken with some sort of offense. Okay, but the fact is, whether you like it or not, no matter what you relate to, who you vote for, who you crawl into bed with, how much money you've got, you're still primarily human. No, in all fairness, Derek, since we haven't made it to 2919, I haven't got to that yet, so I'm hoping that's a typo. If you're talking about the mummies that were found in 2019, I believe I caught wind of them, yes. Now, here's the thing, and you guys are welcome to buy into the propaganda and the threat of alien war if you'd like to. Okay. I appreciate that, Derek. I kind of figured that with coming from you, figured it had to be a typo. Now, it's up to you if you want to buy into the idea that the aliens are going to attack. If they are going to attack, okay, understand they are not going to play by human rules. They are not going to use human tactics, and they certainly are not going to use human technology. Now, I will tell you, Derek, do I know of the Nazca Lines? Yes. If you're looking for scientific analysis of them, that's going to be a bit of a problem because I'm not a researcher. Okay. But where it comes to the Nazca Lines, we will have to deal with that a little later. Right about now, we have a pandemic going on once again. Last time, it was a pandemic as in an illness. And I told you then that we've got to start another one. But the one I desire to start is SMILE. Okay, find something positive to look at. And what do people do? How are we doing there, Joe? Glad you could join us. What do people do? They come up with this brilliant idea. Hey, let's do the really wonderful thing. Yeah, let's turn it over to the major media and go, hey guys, aliens really do exist, but they're here to kill us. Now, where is the brains in this? Okay, if aliens wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. Okay, and no, God is not coming down and going, oh, here's a few thousand people. You're really nice people. We're going to take you up here because you're the brightest of the bright. And we're going to protect you. Okay, if this were happening, if this invasion were happening, you wouldn't have to ask. Even the smallest community wouldn't have to ask, because the off-worlders, you got to remember, now we've got 8 billion people on the planet. That is nothing compared to what races that span star systems have. Okay, absolutely nothing. The other thing you got to remember here is war has never brought peace, ever. Okay, now, could they be here for slavery purposes? Certainly. It's been done for centuries. Okay, but if we're looking at war, here's the way it pans out. Okay, now understand, if you're thinking in terms of human tactical, yes, take out a city. Let people know you mean business, because you can wipe out a city. Okay, but here's the problem with that. The other cities start going, hey, we've got a problem. Okay, you take a look at the Russian war. Okay, the Russian-Austrian war. Okay, they started attacking. Humans responded by going, is this going to be a problem? And they sat around until it became a big enough problem to warrant their attention. War does not work. Okay, not the way humans handle it. Off-worlders will have a very simple approach. They'll come into about the orbit of Mars. Okay, they will hit Earth with a wide, broadband subquantum EMP pulse that not only destroys all of your technology that's operational, but it will modify all of the electronic components that have already been constructed. With this in mind, your communication is gone. You're not going to get a newscast that, oh, we're being invaded. You're not going to get somebody phoning you up and saying, hey, you might want to get to your bunker. It'll be gone. Okay, then what you'll get is the off-worlders moving into orbit. If they want the place on ground, if they want the ground intact, then they will bombard it from orbit with a sonic low decibel impact that will kill every living human on the planet. Okay, and it will be done before they ever set foot on the ground. Now, this is what's called an invasion. This is not what is happening. Okay, if you're hearing about little explosions, oh, it was a stray fighter that came in and just strafed. Aliens, if they're going to war, aren't going to send a stray fighter. Okay, now, is it possible a stray fighter came in and bombarded an area? Certainly, because let's face it, there are rogue pilots in every setup. Emmy Tonga, how you doing? Glad you could join us. But I implore you, double check your information and question everything. Because if we are talking about the aliens going to war against man, first of all, and I don't expect you to believe this, do your own research. Okay, my understanding is they've got no interest in conquering the planet. So am I going to worry about it? No. Okay, is it possible that some government or some agency is going to create a false flag? Absolutely. It happens quite regularly. But let me ask you this. Does it even make functionally remote sense that a race that is capable of traveling light years would even consider using an AK-47 or a 50 caliber machine gun to do any damage at all. Doesn't make any logical sense in the slightest. Nina, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, before anybody comes up with any bright ideas, do I figure aliens are better than humans? Not in the least. They've all got their flaws. Okay, humans all have some incredible capacities. But humans right now, you're fighting so much amongst yourselves. Why bother invading? Give it another 20 years, you may well have destroyed yourselves anyway. So what I'm looking at is it possible that the off-worlders are going to attack? Certainly. But here's the problem. If they're going to attack, they're not going to pound an area flat. They will vaporize a city. Okay, now this has already been done before in our civilization's history. Okay, and this is something we have to look at. Well, you don't have to. Close your eyes, listen to the newscasts that are telling you that the aliens are attacking with no understanding of what's going on and with no thought process beyond what humans understand. And realize this. I'm not saying humans are dense, but you can only think in tactical terms in the way of which you are personally capable of thinking. Humans think like humans. That is why they think like humans, is because they are human. They don't think like planet-conquering species. Okay, I mean, let's face it. They put man on Mars way back in the early 70s. They finally get around to telling you now. Okay, about 5 years ago, I think. Okay, humans aren't even in straight communication with each other. How could you possibly conceive of a globally orchestrated assault? Okay, you can't, humans on the whole can't coordinate, or more to the point, won't coordinate a 6-man assault. Okay, and yes, I realize there are some military and paramilitary units out there that are very individually meshed quite nicely. But on a global standpoint, doesn't work. Ultimately, Henry, you are absolutely correct. See, here's the thing. And the reason I decided to tangle with this is because of the fact that I'm hearing from so many people, oh, there's been an alien invasion down in South America. I'm like, no. Think about it. The more, and this is why I tell you, if you hear something negative, turn around, and if you listen to one thing negative or read one thing negative, turn around and listen to, read, or repost 2 things of a positive nature. Okay, the best I can tell you right now of a positive nature regarding this whole potential alien invasion thing is this. It's not happening. Okay, we know this because mankind is still alive. And you haven't got undeniable disclosure of some alien race walking about on the planet. Okay, when was the last time you ever even heard remote concept of an invading force showing up in a city? And I'm talking a human invasion of another city. Have they ever invaded the city and you never see any of them? Right? All of a sudden they're just converted. What is this? Walk in, go, okay, guys, you're on our side now. Put the guns down. We're all working together. This is not the way it works. But has anybody got undeniable photographic evidence Okay, and I'm not talking a still photo. I'll settle for a live video with the number of phones that are out there, the number of videos out there. Okay, somebody would have caught a live show, a live video of that invasion, not just a government hearsay. Okay, now what you're looking at there, Henry, I absolutely agree with you, and this is why I say I won't get into the political side of it, but people have to start thinking. I know that's a foreign word. I know that's a four-letter word in a lot of people's minds, but it doesn't make any functional sense. Okay, we're still debating, are aliens real? We haven't got full disclosure, but the aliens are attacking, and there's been a full, there's been a on-site attack of alien forces, but we don't know if aliens exist. Now, if aliens don't exist, who was flying the planes that did the attacking? If the attacking even took place. And yes, am I absolutely a skeptic? You bet. Okay. I was talking to somebody the other day who flat out stated they don't believe in aliens at all. It's all a farce. And everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Absolutely. Okay. I do not expect you to buy into my opinion, but I will ask you to think before you buy into the negative ones. Okay. This is what we have to realize. And yes, if you're struggling to survive already and somebody starts talking about an invading force, you're naturally going to go into panic on the whole. Thank you so much for that reiteration there, Emmy. The one thing that I will tell you, and I have no idea how to do it, and besides that, it wouldn't apply necessarily anyway. If you're having trouble with dealing with depression and all of this, I absolutely agree with you there, Henry. And we'll get to that in just a little bit, because that's where all of this comes from. I'm absolutely certain of it. Can't prove it, not interested in proving it. But I will tell you this. If you're having trouble keeping your head above water, emotionally speaking, find the fastest paced dance music that you enjoy that you can find. Crank it as high as socially acceptable, and then let it run in the background. Okay, that increased vibratory rate, that increased music, okay, will improve your sense of self. Okay, and absolutely there, Emmy, you're 100% correct in this one. And there's not much that I will say is 100%. If you haven't done so already, guys, these 4 words are the most powerful words I found in conjunction in any language. Okay, regarding rebuilding self-esteem, self-worth, self-motivation. You get the picture? There's a lot of self there. Okay, and of course, this funny little... This one, yep. This funny little book. This contains the backbone of how I changed my life from where it is to where I can now look at the human race and go, okay, guys, we got to get it together. We got to stop listening to the people that are saying the world's going to end. We're all going to die. They are right. We are. In about 5 billion years when the sun goes supernova. Maybe longer. I'm not the astronomer. I'm not the astrophysicist. Somebody else can have that bin. Okay? But an alien invasion, when it's laid out the same way that human tactics would work, doesn't work well. Oh, I don't think I could agree with you more, in all fairness. Both you, Emmy, and you, Henry. This world has been completely driven into a totally depressing state of mind. Now, when I was younger, Okay, my generation screwed up, and just get that straight. The one before me didn't do much good, but this one created a massive disaster. Okay, and this is going to sound really weird coming from me. Okay, but when they chased religion out of the schools and they replaced it with separation and segregation and metal detectors, all of a sudden you got a problem because everybody's evil, nobody's nice, and everybody's trying to kill everybody. And it doesn't matter who you are. Well, why would an alien force even bother invading, taking the time to invade a world that's tearing itself apart? Where's the logic? And yes, aliens and humans do work on logic. The problem is that there is so much greed in this world right now that mankind is doing whatever it can to make everybody else look worse. They don't turn around and go, here's what I'm doing. They turn around and go, look at what that guy's doing wrong. Now, could I turn around and do the same thing? Certainly. Okay, I could absolutely turn around and say everybody's wrong. The thing that's going sour is we're focusing on the negative side of things. Okay, and this is what we got to look at. And one of the things we have to remember here, if you're watching the news highlights who shot who embezzled about what, who lied about what, and why is that person so much worse than me. Okay, you notice, even with the election campaigns, it's not a question of what that person is going to do and what that person does for the community, so much as pointing out what the other person didn't do. Okay, this doesn't work well. This is one of the biggest things we have to realize. But where it comes to this whole idea, take a look at the tactics that are being propagated, that are being expounded upon, where they're talking about alien interstellar war, utilizing human military guerrilla tactics. Is there any rationality to it? And why, pray tell, would you buy into it? Is it possible that the world's going to end tomorrow? Certainly. But I like the way it was said. Now, what was it? In Avengers. Okay, in the original Avengers. Okay. Where Nick Fury turned around and he goes, are we supposed to just pretend the world's going to end? It may end tomorrow. But since we're still alive right now, let's worry about how to live today. Okay, we carry on living until the living is no longer possible. But unless we start looking at each other and go, hey, oh my gosh, you're living on the same planet, you look pretty much the same as me, you're behaving in similar fashion, hey, novel idea. How about if we get along with each other? How about if we try and talk to each other? Okay, you can bet your bottom dollar if the aliens are going to attack, they're not going to check which one of you is a liberal voter, a Republican voter, a communist supporter. They're not going to ask. They're just not. Thank you so much for the correction there, Henry. Henry just goes, until such time as the world ceases to spin, we shall continue to act as though it intends to spin on. And this is the way that you've got to start looking at your own life. You may have gone through all kinds of negative stuff. Okay? And in deference to the people that have told me, oh, you gotta sit still when you're doing a broadcast. Can you really picture me trying to sit here like this through the whole day? Like through the whole 2 hours? I don't know about you, but I just get bored with it. But then I decided I wasn't doing things the way that everybody else laid it out. Okay, but we got to start looking at this issue of if they're broadcasting Start petitioning the news agencies. And I do mean this quite literally. Nathan, how you doing? That actually wasn't what I was going to say. But start petitioning the news agencies, the major media moguls. Start petitioning them to post who's getting married, who opened a new business, who all of a sudden had a windfall. Okay, based on a lottery, not on somebody dying. Let's start pushing the idea of everybody asking the media to turn around and start reporting the decent things, not the terror and the horror in people's lives. How about the breakthroughs? Okay, we start with that. Knock off the protests about stupid things. I do mean stupid. I heard of a protest taking place in New York where they were protesting the fires in Canada. Now, of all the stupid things to actually waste your time with, yes, a fire in Canada is going to have an effect on the air quality in New York. Certainly it will. But where's the launching and wasting your time in protesting it? And thank you for that, Nathan. And speaking of this, before I go any further, where is Nathan? The Quantum Show. Here we are. This is the link to Nathan's live stream, The Quantum Show. Okay, comes on Saturday at 9 p.m. Central. Okay, drop in, give him a look. Whoop, wait a minute. Forgot. Drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, absolutely give him a thumbs up. Do subscribe to his channel and share the daylights out of it. I Voices, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, I will get to the next one. I'm just going to step up half a second here. Okay. Yeah, there's been rumor that the fires were started by somebody. Take whatever rumors you want. Okay, whatever you'd like to hang on to. Okay, they used to believe killing your firstborn son would affect the weather or would affect the crops. I'm telling you, it didn't work back then. Ain't gonna work now. Okay, now, iVoices has asked, do you think humans are getting crazier as time progresses? No, humans have always been this way, but the advent of the internet has made it much more viable and much easier to access to see just how off-center people are. But that's not the major mogul media is doing. That's not the government's doing. That is the individuals like you guys, and I don't mean you specifically, but I mean members of the social media system that are posting and reposting all of this ill thought out negativity. Okay, why do I not see more people posting, hey, by the way, my cousin, my friend Jane Doe, just got married to Bob. Now, Bob's a millionaire, Jane is just a pauper, but here's two people that fell in love. They got married. Why isn't that on the front page? Why isn't the local kids sports team on the front page going, not who won, who lost, but hey, look, we got 60 kids out here from various different families, all out on the field playing the same game, having a riot. Okay, and I mean a fun time. I remember walking through a park and walking by a park one day. Now, clearly, I'm Caucasian, in case you couldn't tell by the skin tone. Another Caucasian was walking by, and it was a park last summer, actually. Okay, there was a bunch of people. There were two families, roughly the same size. One was Caucasian, one was Middle Eastern. And I only say they were Middle Eastern because they were darker skinned than I was. And it's all I got to go with. I have no idea what nationality they were, and less interest. The thing that mattered, was that as the guy's past me, he looks at me and goes, why is the Canadian government letting those terrorists move, come into our country. Okay, now do understand, both families were playing. They were mixed. They were 2 to 3 generations, in each family. They were all playing frisbee or playing catch. They were both having a barbecue. But this guy's immediate jump was, those dark people are terrorists. And I'm like, okay, you care to explain how you know they're terrorists? Well, just look at them. Well, I am looking at them. They're both having a family picnic. They're 30 feet away from each other. They're not even fighting with each other. Okay, and I see nothing in the way of guns. Okay. Now, just scanning up. Here we go. I left that sit for a bit, quite intentionally. Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And this, people, is the link to Shadow's live stream. And again, do drop in, give him a listen. If you like what you hear, give him a thumbs up, and do subscribe to his channel. Okay, now we also have Black Dragon here. Black Dragon, welcome aboard. Oh, I've already done that. This is what caused this. Nathan's going, could you ask your contacts if they're involved in anything in Peru? Okay. I've already done that. This is one of the things that brought me to this point. I went, no, because I didn't have anything really planned. And Tuesday is supposed to be, according to what you guys requested, revolving around the alien agenda, the, alien races, that sort of thing. This is a direct crossover. Okay. But, are there abductions still taking place down there? Yes. But there is no assault taking place on their part at all. And here's the other kicker to this. Let's assume for half a moment that some party had turned around and attacked the community on Earth. Number one, the first thing we look at, have any of you that have been watching the news, and I'd love somebody to give me an answer, a yes or no. You guys have been watching the news. I don't. But have there been any reports of even a small village being completely obliterated, wiped off the map? Okay, and I will tell you, they won't target the small villages. Raven, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I hear people talking about, there's an alien invasion going down. But nobody said anything about cities just literally ceasing to exist. And do understand, these aren't going to be done by, no reports of that. They seem, Nathan's going, they seem to be infantry ground attacks. Now, here's a neat little idea. Okay. Now, we've got cell phones all over the place, with pocket cameras, with drones all over the neighborhood, with satellite imagery, and your town and the public and the powers that be want you to believe, and you're buying it, that there's some sort of an alien invasion taking place on the ground with no viable photos of any off-worlders, any non-human races. They haven't even got walking gorillas. Okay, there's nothing being reported except, there was an infantry attack of aliens. I'm like, would you mind thinking that through for half a moment? Okay, these guys don't play by the same rules humans do. Joe, the reality is there are some races that will look like humans. But let me ask you this. Okay, you are right. You may not be able to tell. But lack of proof of an alien disguised as a human does not prove there is one. You can go with a bizarre idea of, they're just so good you can't detect them. But that is a lack of proof. Now, you can, the old saying, lack of proof of existence is not proof of non-existence. But we do know that the tactics that they're talking about are only tactics that humans can think of. Okay, what human would consider wiping out an entire city, and I mean just blowing it out of existence, just to create a landing pad? Okay, nothing more, nothing less. Okay, we just need a place to put our ship. So let's just obliterate this place. Okay, I mean, we've got nuclear weapons. Okay, and humans won't use nuclear weapons. But here's the thing. Humans also have neutron and sonic weapons. And that I'm not dealing with. Humans have neutron and sonic weapons that don't have the fallout. And yet, they aren't using those either. Thank you very much. Keep it that way, please. War doesn't do a thing for you. The off-worlders won't bother with this massive fallout. Okay? I mean, they could do it very easily. You take a couple of places. Hawaii, all they would have to do is hit a sonic impact on the surface of Hawaii to trigger a staggering amount of volcanic eruptions. Net result, Hawaii becomes inhospitable. And no, I'm not picking on Hawaii. From what I understand, Hawaii is a really wonderful place to go. Personally, I've never been there. Football, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The reality of it is this. If we are going to continue paying attention to people saying, oh, somebody else is going to kill us, okay, you're going to drive yourself right into a hole in the wall. Now, take my word for this one. I've been hiding in the hole in the wall forever and a day. Okay, the last 40 years, the last 10 years, really badly, I pulled way away from people. I've now decided it's time to get out and start doing something about it. Okay, and the one thing that I can tell you is everything I'm looking about these attacks from off-world, that doesn't make sense. Okay, there's no proof to it, and lack of proof does not mean that maybe, maybe it's a question of, oh, we didn't see it happen. Well, true, but you're going to be hard-pressed unless you believe the idea that we're living in a matrix. And then you do a little bit of a keystroke, and all of a sudden everything's fine and dandy again. Okay, now, I write science fiction. I write science fantasy. So yes, you could say my mind is completely twisted, which I won't argue with you. But we have to remember that just because things aren't proven doesn't mean they aren't there. And this is what I just on a real bizarre side note, I got approached by somebody today and I didn't get a chance to ask them. Okay, guy came up and told me he was short on money for a little bit of food. Now, the guy that approached me, I know for an absolute certainty, he is a member of a very well-established church. So why, pray tell, if he is a member of a church that is supposed to be taking care of the poor, supposed to be taking care of the ill, why, when he is running short on food and on money and food, why is the church not actually supporting and helping him out? Okay, this is the same thing we have to look at. Yes, people are being brainwashed, and they have been for centuries. Okay, and people have bought it because people have been taught questioning creates a problem. Now, I'm not debating whether there are all these newscasts out there depicting alien invasions or the world ending. Okay, in today's world, let's face it, if we take the idea that thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it, I'll tell you the world's already dead in the water. Okay, never mind by anybody else, I'm doing it myself. Okay, and I'm referring to simply the way I write. Okay, But when we start looking at the world, at the world now being actively invaded by ground troops of alien nature, okay, if you've got alien forces, why, pray tell, would you bring human-sized ones? Why not just enlist the assistance of the Anunnaki? Okay, or how about if we bring out the Korlock? Okay, or any of the other races that people already are aware of. Okay, why not utilize that? Like I said, where it comes to weaponry, humans have weapons that can wipe people out, and yet they rely on media manipulation, on low grade illnesses and diseases. Mother Nature came up with a real brilliant one. She came up with the Black Death. Okay, 1/3 of Europe was wiped out. Now there was nowhere near that got wiped out with the last pandemic we just went through. Okay, mankind hasn't figured out how to kill people that readily, and therefore, when laying out an invasion options, they think like humans. No offense to humans. How are you going to think like something else? Okay, realistically. Okay, how do you possibly think like something else if you're stuck in that realm in the first place? Okay, oddly enough, I will tell you that translates into relationship complications as well. So many men go, well, she's a woman. She should know what I'm looking for. And women do the exact same thing to men. You guys don't even think like the other gender, never mind another species. Okay, and this is a good thing, because I'm telling you, I have the same argument with them. War does not bring peace. It does not bring prosperity. And even when we look at corporations, a company takes a big company goes, hey, there's a small company with an idea that's working. Okay, it's making money. Let's buy that little company. It's already making money. Now, what do 90% of the big businesses do when they do that? They change everything that was being done. And then all of a sudden, the little company they bought is no longer making money. Okay, now it happened to the company I used to work for. Okay, we'd gone from no income to $1 million a year in 3 years. Okay, we had figured out what was working and we were climbing. Then, due to issues of their own, the owner sold the company. The new owner turned around, changed everything in a matter of 6 months. We were down to making pocket change. Okay, off-worlders do not think in terms of let's merge with this inferior race. They go, okay, we're taking over, wipe it off and move in. Okay, because their method is working. Okay, it's working for them. It ain't going to do all that much good for us. Fortunately, there are safeguards in place, and the off-worlders are not predisposed to invasion. Okay, this is what we have to really take a look at. And something I did forget to mention earlier on, for those of you that are in the chat room that haven't been here before, for those of you that are listening in, if you've got a question, absolutely come right out and ask. Doesn't even matter if it's not to do with the topic we're discussing. Come right out and ask, and I will do my best to answer it. Oddly enough, Nathan, like I'm just looking back up here, and Nathan Gang is just saying, I try to get that through to people. They do not use the same rules. They use different physics than we do. The funny part about it is they use the same physics you do. They just understand them in a much more detailed fashion. Okay, which is one of the reasons why I'm going to have to make time now. This is Tuesday, so that doesn't work. Or more to the point, that's not a big issue. But some of the physics that they are using absolutely defy human understanding. But then you got to remember, humans don't know all the alphabet. These guys are using, I've seen a periodic table with 250 elements on it. Now, I think there's only 120 right now on the Terran table of elements. Okay, which means they've got just double the elements to work with. It's not just that they understand physics differently or more intensely. It is that they know how to work with them. And I'll tell you, it's kind of like when I watched this movie. Well, I watched what was it, Independence Day, and they showed them taking a modern computer, hooking it up to an alien computer, and overriding it with a virus. Brilliant idea, great storyline, loved the movie. Had some real annoying flashbacks for me, but as a movie went, it was great. But doing that is akin to grabbing an abacus and plugging it in, and plugging it into an adapter to the modern computer. Okay, to the newest computer on the market. And I shouldn't say on the market because they're already 6 months out of date. I like the way the show was done, don't get me wrong. Okay, now, Shadow, the Black Plague, the Black Death itself, okay, that was a problem that came from Mother Nature. But it was because mankind did not understand one thing, one critical factor. If you don't keep your living area clean, you're going to develop disease. It's going to come. It was already there as a way of maintaining control over the area. Okay. So that's the first thing we look at. The doctors at the time were not the cause. And yes, in my case, I remember being alive at that point. Rest assured, it was not that fun. And if you think the garbage in the streets right now is bad, it was nothing compared to the time of the Black Death. Oh, that wasn't causing the Black Plague, that was spreading it. Okay. And that was literally the church going, oh, we can turn this to our advantage. And by doing this in the shadow of the dark, what they were doing was they were taking already infected material and spreading it in uninfected areas in order to make sure that the plague carried on. But for all their efforts, it eventually got wiped out. But it wasn't wiped out because of a vaccine. It was wiped out because mankind got the idea that, hey, if we clean things up, we won't have the disease. Now, are the churches, are the spiritual leaders, are the political leaders and are the corporate leaders known to orchestrate things to exacerbate a problem to make it drive home? Absolutely. Okay, let's face it. Now, this is only hearsay from my end. But my understanding is that dairy farmers are being told you can only produce X amount of milk. You will not have any more. You cannot produce any more. Now, this is orchestrated. No question there at all, because cows didn't get the message. They're still producing milk. Oh, Joe, I agree with you. The cinematography of that was very well done, and quite honestly, was very accurately done. When a larger ship comes through the atmosphere, it does ionize the atmosphere, thereby creating that kind of a rolling cloud base. But I've always said the movies are fantastic. And yeah, I certainly recommend going and seeing anyone that has alien starships or dinosaurs is best seen on the big screen. Absolutely it is. Nathan, I agree with you. From my standpoint, boils down to this. The food is being permitted. Now, here's another one that I got told. And again, double check your own records. Double check the facts. Okay, what I got told was way back around the 13th or 14th century, there was a major famine in India somewhere. I forget exactly where. Some historian can figure that out. Half you guys know. Okay, but they were having a famine and they were trying, what was happening is people were killing the cattle. So the political people at the time, they had done the fine people, say it's illegal to kill the cattle. They would tell people, you can't kill the cattle because if you kill the cattle, not only do we run out of meat, we run out of milk and cheese. Okay, not to mention butter and everything else that goes with it. Okay, none of it worked. They tried fining them, they tried imprisoning them, they tried, punishment. None of it worked. So what ended up happening, according to what I was told, and check the information. I'd love somebody to go and double check this because I have no luck finding a local menu. Never mind past history. But apparently, the powers that be went to the church and went, "Hey, guys, we've got to stop them from killing the cattle. How do we do it?" So the people in power in the church, in the local church, they all got together across the country, and on their holy day, came out and said, in this case, I was told it was Allah has spoken. Now it may as well have been, the Rice Krispie kids came out and said, the cow is sacred. Don't kill the cow. Net result, overnight, everybody quit killing the cattle. Famine died. Okay. Now, it would be just as quick or just as easy to turn it around. Okay, and do it the other way. Oh, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Emmy. The rats didn't cause the illness. They were the carrier. Okay. The illness was a microorganism, okay, that happened to sit really well. Of course, take a microorganism, it'll attach to the flea. Flea jumps on the rat covers miles. Okay, and all of a sudden you got it spread all over the place. Needless to say, fleas had a neat habit of crawling into dirty clothing and staying there. And again, the Black Plague was spreading. Net result, we had an absolute disaster. Now, I was lucky. Okay, I happened to be a coroner at the time. I was also immune to the Black Plague. This lifetime, we had the COVID lockdown go through. I didn't feel any of it. Of course, in all fairness, you don't get much exposure if you don't leave your house. And I'd been a recluse for 10 years before that. But if you're going to listen to people telling you that, the aliens are invading and we're all going to die, we're all going to be enslaved. Okay, not to worry. If it's a Teklik that decide to come down, two things happen. First of all, they will not check who you're voting with. They won't ask you who you're sleeping with. They'll take you all. Because the one thing the Teklik did discover was they liked the flavor of humans. Okay, and yeah, even alcoholics are a nice little bonus. Because you got to remember, with alcoholics, you're getting pickled meat. Now, they're not going to check anything about your credentials. They won't care if you live in a penthouse suite or in a hovel. They'll just pick up whatever is available. Kind of like when human hunters go out and you go out shooting deer. Do you ever find out which deer is eating on what type of bush? Do you figure out which one has a favorite watering hole? Or do you just go out there and shoot a deer when you see it? And don't get me wrong, I'm all for people hunting. Matter of fact, if I could find a hunter, that'd be great. Because myself, well, I can't go out in the woods without getting lost, so I'm not doing that. But you gotta ask why you're listening to things that are telling you things that don't make any functional sense. Now, I've always had respect, the utmost respect for people that have chosen to go into the military and defend their families, their community, their country, or their way of life, whatever they're stepping up to the plate to do. I've always had respect for them. Okay, I've always questioned the rationality of some of the choices that they're given, some of the orders they're given. We go back to the Middle Ages when war was declared. Okay, the king would ride out in front of everybody. Okay, in today's world, I've heard of one president that actually did that. The rest of them sit behind an oak desk and look at a wall and look out the window and go, let's attack them. Okay, but they never leave the desk. Okay, showing up on the battlefield, 60 miles from the front line isn't showing up at the war. Okay, it's showing up in a really annoying, painful, buffer zone. But rest assured, if there were an alien attack taking place, they would not start with land troops. And besides that, you wouldn't have any communication lines to find out. Okay, think just how much damage would be done. Now, there have been ships that have been sighted that people have estimated being 3 miles in length. Now, picture what's going to happen if one ship, now remember, we've got drones, we've got flying, we've got completely automated cargo carriers. What is to stop an off-world race from taking a 3-mile bullet and traveling if it wants to create an impact? What's to stop it from taking one ship and dropping it at 400 miles an hour and 3 miles long into the ocean? What's to stop it from doing that? All of a sudden, you've wiped out an entire coastal area. Okay, this is the thing we have to look at, the rationality behind what they're telling us. Now, I am no tactician, okay, but I can tell you everything I've come to understand says we're not at war with aliens. We are at war with each other because people have decided, and they decided centuries ago. Okay, I found out something. This is going to tick somebody off. It may just get me banned from here. But do understand something when we go back to the slavery thing that everybody keeps asking me. Well, is there an arrangement with the government, between the governments and the off-worlders, to turn some people over so that they can get technology? Number one, not that I'm aware of. It was tried, but every one of the contracts was broken. But if we look at our own slavery, okay, and again, take a look at the research. Don't take my word for it. Okay, I stumbled across something the other day that actually stated very clearly that former black slaves, many of them became slave owners. Okay, now this is just appallingly wrong, and I mean the whole slavery thing. But look at what you're being told. Okay, question everything, including what I'm telling you. Okay, but ask yourself this. Does it make sense that an alien race would actually use Terran tactics to overcome a planet? They don't have this misconception of overkill. Okay, they really don't. Their idea of overkill is pretty cut and dried. They're up here, they're over you, they kill you. Overkill. Okay, and yeah, that's coming out almost like that one comedian. But anyway, that's another issue. Okay, if people can band together, I see people banding together going, oh, the aliens are attacking, God wouldn't make anything evil. Okay, you can band together on the negative. Let's see the people around the world start banding together on the positive side, on the side of, hey, yes, war happens, But what about the communities that are getting along? Okay, what about the neat little pictures that show people in so-called third world countries smiling and laughing and interacting with each other and working to make things happen? What about those photographs? What about those posts? Why aren't they hitting the main media? Okay, here's my personal opinion on it. They don't hit the major media because people have been taught that being miserable and being fearful is a great idea. And of course, let's do the intelligent thing. Not my fault. His fault. I didn't do it. I grew up in the military. I know all about the idea of pass the buck. Usually when somebody says, I look at them and go, didn't do it. I'm innocent. And that's just almost instinctive. But rest assured, you will never find a stock VW bug that can outdrive a Maserati on a racetrack. Doesn't happen. You're also not going to find a hovercraft on Earth that will outfly a speeder bike. Speaking of which, Nathan, I hope that little experiment of yours is coming along nicely. The biggest thing, one of the biggest contributors to ignorance, to our fear of each other, is ignorance. Okay, and this is why I look at all of you and go, you're all equally valuable. I'm talking spiritually speaking. What your pocketbooks look like doesn't matter to me any more than what it matters to the off-worlders. It matters less to them, I suspect. I got asked one day if I would take some money and tell somebody something. Now, I knew what they wanted me to pass on was a lie. I looked at them and I went, well, I'll take the $1,000. And the guy goes, and sadly, he was thinking. So I looked at him and I said, I'll take the money. He says, well, what about passing on the message? I said, I don't lie for anybody. I won't lie for myself. I sure as heck ain't gonna lie for you. He goes, well, then why would I give you the $1,000? I said, you're nice. For some weird reason, he didn't give me the $1,000. Now Derek's going, Keith, have you ever think of getting the recipe from your favorite restaurant so you can make that good food yourself? Have I thought about it? Yes. But here's the problem. I can take the best recipe in the world without a sense of taste, without a sense of timing, and without a sense of space, to speak of. The kitchen and I do not get along well. Okay, I'm lucky if it's functionally palatable. This is why I don't cook. Now, will I one day eventually open up a restaurant? I've even got a restaurant name. Okay, will one day, money providing, will I open a restaurant and get quality food in there? Absolutely. But I will tell you this, and this applies to every industry I'm intending on getting my fingers into. I pay on a percentage base, not a wage base. And here's why. On a wage, you're told you have to pay X dollars to get that person hired. I'm looking at it going, I only have to do that if the person doesn't sign an agreement. Okay. Yes, legally, you definitely follow the laws. But I'm a firm believer. I know what I'm aiming for. I know what I'm planning on dealing with. And I don't see the point in buying into a failing system. Okay. This idea of worrying about the world, about the world being invaded. I'm saying, I look at it almost tongue in cheek, but not quite. I look at it going, gee, I wonder if the Strazazians show up down here, maybe I can sit down and actually have a quiet meal with Kulak on the side. Kulak, by the way, is a friend of mine. Okay. And I can even show you comparatively speaking. this book right here. This is number 2 in the series. Okay. Some of you have seen this before already. But you notice this chap here holding the sword. Okay, he's 5'8". Here is Kulak. Now just take a look at the mace that he's packing compared to the size of this person. This is a normal weapon. Really nice, gentle chap here. Okay. And like I said, I've got some pretty strange friends. But we have to realize if we continue buying into the things that separate us, okay, we're going to continue having problems. It just really boils down to this. Do you desire to continue spreading the word that the world's going to end, that we're all going to die of starvation or oil shortages or land shortages or what have you? Okay, you can buy into that if you'd like. I don't honestly see the rationality behind it. But there's a lot of people that seem to. And I've been told that did not work well. Actually, I wasn't told that. Yeah, you might want to change that. Mind you, Derek, that brings to mind something, another technological stupid move. My car, I went in and talked to them the last time. My vehicle, it's brand new. It was a 2022. But it's factory specs because the maintenance buzzer keeps coming on. And I asked them about it, right? But it's still set to Japanese specs because I'm driving a Mitsubishi. Now, to my way of thinking, if you're selling in the West, change the factory specs to the Western side. Don't leave them set for the Japanese side. That doesn't make sense. It's the same as with your laptop. Okay, if you bought it on the West Coast, okay, it should be just standard, just common sense or common rationality. With being sent to the East Coast, change the time setting on it. There are so many things being done a little bit backwards. Yeah, Black's going, just pay me in bacon and all will be good. There's a part of me that agrees with you there. Speaking of which, the last time I went out, I didn't buy any. Can't remember why I didn't. Probably just an oversight. But what I do know is, wonder if that's possible. I don't think so. I was just thinking, I'm planning on going out and getting a side of beef. I'm thinking, I wonder if you can get beef bacon. They give you all kinds of, this isn't real meat. Well, okay, let's make not real bacon. Only make it out of beef, not this vegetable side of things. That's just weird that that's moving that way. Oh, there you go. See, now that's something that you can do that I really can't. I look at my computer and it hiccups and I'm pretty much booped. I don't buy into fear very well either. I remember getting held up at gunpoint outside a bar one day. The guy pulled a gun on me and I just looked at him and I went, "What are you going to do? Kill me again?" He stopped cold. He looks at me and goes, "Again?" I said, "Yeah, it's been done once. It didn't take." So he got this really weird look on his face, uncocked his gun, put it back in his pants, back in the small of his back. Looks at me and goes, "How about if I just buy you a drink and we call it even?" I said, "I can work with that quite readily. Do not ask me why it didn't register that there was a problem." But when somebody shows up on my doorstep and has a gun and says, "I'm from the government," and we're at war, that happens, I'll probably pay attention. Until then, what gets broadcast doesn't matter. This is why I don't listen to it. It saves me a whole lot of hassles. You know, but way too many people buy into the fear. You know, people have been talking, and, you know, when you've got billions of people listening to somebody stand up there and go, we're all going to die because God doesn't like what you've become. Well, God set it in motion. Okay, if you believe that line of reasoning, God made it in the first place. You know, there's just so much wrong with that. You know, but you gotta understand when you're being bombarded with fear every day, when everything is something to cause fear or to cause separation or to cause segregation, things are going to happen. There was a movie decades back called Going Postal. It was either called Going Postal or just Postal. But it was a guy who used to work for the post office that everything just got to him and he just snapped and went in and started shooting people. Okay. Now the world isn't enough at odds with each other. People are now going, oh, it's the end times, and you know God is bringing down His wrath upon us. The government's out to kill us all, and the elites are orchestrating everything at the behest of the aliens. People have to start looking in the mirror and going, what are you doing not to contribute to the problem? What are you doing to contribute to the peaceful side of things? You know, that wouldn't be an entire shock. Of course, the reality is mankind keeps expanding without paying attention to the impact on nature. Nature's going to wander into the city. Okay. And I hate to tell you this, but the bears aren't going to check your passport. They're not going to worry about whether or not you voted this year, or are you up to date on your are you up to date on your medical insurance? They're not going to look for it. Okay, they just don't. If you live in the southeastern states, you guys know the horror stories, and they're not as bad now. But you guys know the horror stories that go hand in hand with the killer bees. That was the result of mankind going, I'm bored. Let's see if I can make this easier to get more honey. Not look at the whole picture. Off-worlders don't do that. Off-worlders go, well, we know that the survivors will be a problem. So how about if we don't have survivors? We require the land. We got more than enough people, but we require the land. Okay, if they're looking for an invasion, they're not worried about making deals with anybody. What purpose would making a deal with a monkey actually do mankind? Okay, I mean, I remember seeing a clip one day of Somalian pirates, and it was hilarious in my eyes. I do feel for the one survivor. Okay, because these Somalian pirates, it was that thing on YouTube I caught. And this group of half a dozen Somalian pirates were sitting there on the edge of the forest, and a chimpanzee come out. So what did they do? They took their gun, you know, and I kid you not, it's like this. You know, not the same gun, obviously. You guys have seen this one before. But they took the gun and they pointed at the chimp, and they were going like this, you know, and then having it pop up and down. Then they turned it broadside, pointed at the trigger, and went like this, you know, and then they made the sound again. They fired it up into the air, I think once, right? And of course, I had to wait for the monkey to come back, for the ape to come back. They pointed. Then these geniuses turned around and handed the gun to the chimpanzee. For some weird reason, the chimp took the machine gun, pointed it at the pirates, and pulled the trigger. Right. One of the 6 survived. Okay, not the brightest move. You know, I mean, I watched another setup where a poacher, I have no idea why he was driving a rabbit type vehicle, but maybe it was a Jeep, but he was a poacher out hunting African elephants. What I can't figure out is how he lost the African elephant. Okay, because the bull came up behind the car and crushed it, turned it into a subcompact with the driver and with the poacher in it. Oh, sorry about that there, Derek. Look at the bright side. My weapons don't actually cut through pictographical space. Besides that, that particular weapon was never even partially an operational gun. It's a 100% complete mock-up. But what we have to realize is if we're looking at an alien invasion, first of all, they are not going to use human tactics at all. It's just not going to happen that way. Okay. Secondly, when they do it, it's not going to be just a little thing. It'll be a case of all of a sudden an entire city is just gone. That will be their warning. Okay, we're here, we're taking over. City's gone. Okay, it also wouldn't take much if all they wanted was land. Understand, these guys mankind already has the first generation atmospheric generator, also known as HARP. Okay, these guys have full-size ones, which means if they really wanted to take the planet in a hurry, okay, all they'd have would take about probably 50 years. For them, that's nothing. Okay, all they'd have to do is take one interstellar starship and cut through the atmosphere at light speed. They'd tear the atmosphere off the planet. You'd all be dead. They can come back in 50 years and set up camp. Or set up camp immediately at the base of atmospheric generators. Yeah. Yeah, and you notice that when the grizzly bear goes into the 7-Eleven there, football, okay, you notice the grizzly bear does not stop at the cashier and say, hey, can I have some candy? Or, here's a handful of grubs. This is to pay for the candy. He just goes in and gets the candy. Okay, and he doesn't have guns. Although he does have a tendency of not dying when you shoot him. Okay, but you gotta remember, a grizzly bear, it's like, you don't run into a moose with a car. It's just a bad idea. And these are terran animals. Okay. Well, the bear wouldn't be. The noise will annoy some of them. But we are just talking about terran animals, not about sentient off-world races. Okay, and the problem is it wouldn't be a one-pronged attack. Okay, it's not like an off-world invasion is going to only attack from the air. They will attack from the air, from the ground, and from the sea if the sea is reachable. Okay, they will also attack from underground if it's available. And this is just what we have to really look at. The biggest thing we have to understand is that if we continue buying into the negative propaganda, and that's all it is, it's fear-mongering propaganda in my eyes. If I'm wrong, it's like I tell people, look, if World War III is going to start, would somebody mind giving the powers that be my address just to make sure I get one of the first bombs? I don't want to live through this mess again. Yeah, but let's not forget there. When you think about it, football, the Bears they go after the sweeps. Okay. Now, personally, I agree with you. The hot dogs and the nachos with chili, definitely a good option. I don't have much of a sweet tooth as far as candy goes. You know, but we got to start looking at the world and go, okay, this room, like literally this chat room that we're in, okay, shows people from every walk of life can get along, can support each other, and can do some incredible things. All of you have a goal that you would like to bring to light. Well, yes. You know, and come to think of it, that's something I haven't had in a very long time. And you'd think with the temperatures we've been having, that would have been one of my first thoughts. But on the other hand, I'm going through a staggering amount of water. And yes, you are right. Okay, way too hot. On the plus side, I've got my fan going, so I'm okay. One of the best little investments I came up with recently. Just a tiny little fan. It's not a huge thing, but I don't need it being huge. You know, the reality is this. You can continue listening to people telling you the world's going to end. Okay, this is one of the things that prompted me to put the newsletter back out, which is also why I call it what I do. But I only send it out by request. And again, guys, if you do have questions, absolutely, because I know some of you guys are sitting there with questions in your head that may not relate to what we're talking about. But if you've got a question, put it in the chat room. Do put it in a fashion either bold or with that fine little wave hand to get my attention. Okay, regardless of the topic of the question you've got, put it in there. I will do my best to answer it. Okay, if you are striving to get a hold of me, okay, this is the best email to track me down at. Okay, right about, I can't get the mouse to move. Right about there. And again, you know, from my standpoint, Black Dragon says, we live in a world of illusions where reality is buried under a mountain of lies. Okay. Now, you know, that essentially is correct. And the question you got to ask yourself is, are you paying attention to and are you propagating reality, or are you regurgitating lies or what you consider lies? Okay. Now, Derek, I am presuming that is a question to me. You know, I don't know if it is, but Derek's asked, have you ever wanted to live in the United States? Right. And the answer to your question is, I considered it once. Okay. I was dating a young lass down in Florida. Okay, and no, I'm not going to tell you who she was, but I was seriously considering moving south of the border, likely into Blaine or somewhere there, because my boys are still up here. I was seriously considering moving down there, but when we started talking about the moving, she was going to move from Florida up into Blaine, right? But when we started seriously looking at planning it, she come right out and she goes, you know, I really hate it when you call me names. And I'm sitting there going, when, pray tell, did I call you a name? And her immediate response was, well, you're calling me love and sweetheart. I looked at her and I went, okay, I'm done with this sheep. You know, I'm done. Right. She goes, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. I didn't want to pick a fight with you. I says, okay. That was the last thing I ever said to her. Okay. So have I considered moving to the States? Once. Okay. But in all fairness, it's never been, my problem with moving to the States has never been the people. It's been the political policies. Okay. That's where my holdup has always been. So, of course, when I met my current other half, I told her right off the bat, I'm not moving. Period. Okay, that's just the way it is. Well, we're just about 3 years together now. As a matter of fact, in less than a week, we will be 3 years together. Oh, little munchkin is going to be here. Yeah, well, that was pretty much my thought there, Emmy. Bryson, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, I'm looking at. I was looking at that, going, if that's calling people names, I mean, it hit me so badly that when I met my current other half, when I met Kira, I told her, I says, "Do you have any problem with being called love or sweetheart or other terms of endearment?" And she goes, "No. Why would I? Or why would you ask?" So I explained this to her, and she's like, "No, definitely not." And like I said, in less than a week, we hit our 3 years. She still hasn't made it across the border. I still haven't. We've been on the phone almost every day for the last 3 years. Well, in all fairness, we spend most of our time on FaceTime. And that's exactly what you really have to do there, Black Dragon. Black Dragons going, I spread the truth, but allow people to believe whatever they like. Absolutely. I mean, the reality is I cannot tell you what you believe is wrong. Well, I could tell you, but I don't take kindly to somebody telling me my opinion's wrong either. However, I will tell you, if what I'm saying doesn't add up, okay, if what I'm saying doesn't add up for you, absolutely talk to me about it. Because if you know something is off kilter, like for instance, years ago I was hosting a radio show on KGRA. On that show, I had a well-placed member of the Roman Catholic Church and a well-placed member of the Church of Satan on the same show. Within an hour, I had them agreeing with each other. But I started off with some misconceptions about the Church of Satan. This guy told me I was wrong, sent me the documentation that said, here's the actual guidelines we live by. Okay, I immediately, on air, apologized to him and told everybody, look, you got it wrong. Derek, in this case, you really can, although I'm not giving you the address, obviously. Let's see. Derek's going, can I ask your other half, does day-to-day, since she has the impairment, is she able to go out and do day-to-day things? Oh, she's absolutely, she's able to go out, spend time with her friends, spend time with her family. She even goes back, she's even gone and started going back to her church, which, like I said, I don't go to church, but I don't hold it against anybody, and Lord knows how many people I've sent back to them. It just really boils down to, yeah, you notice that too, eh, Nathan? No, as far as she goes, she's free and clear to do whatever she pleases except one thing. And much as I have taken people's relationships where there has been a fidelity breach, I have guided people through putting their marriage back together. Okay. And it's lasted for decades afterwards. But I did tell my other half right off the bat, you ever cheat on me, we will not survive because it'll be over. I said there won't be a reconciliation. You lie to me, the odds are it'll come apart eventually. But you ever cheat on me, the discussion's over. Now, do understand, I don't even go looking for another woman at this point. Well, I never did go looking for one and didn't go looking for my other half. She actually opened the door on that one. No, it was funny when I was talking to a guy from the Church of Satan. Fundamentally, when I compared the Ten Commandments to the 11 guidelines of the Church of Satan, the only functional difference is that with the Church of Satan, they say magic exists. If you're going to use magic to get ahead, acknowledge you're using magic. For if you deny you used magic to get ahead, you will lose everything you gained via magic. Okay. They also have right in their doctrine. You do not harm a child. Period. Okay. Now, I don't know. From my way of looking at it, doesn't matter to me what name people use. See, I'm pretty black and white. Nathan, from my standpoint, cheating is very simple. And it's always been this way for as long as I can remember, which, by the way, dates back lifetimes in my case. But I've always defined cheating as inappropriate physical contact with another party when you're committed to one. Okay, and that applies to both sides of the relationship. Okay. Now, the one thing I will give many of the off-worlders, especially where it comes to any sort of conflict, they don't differentiate between gender. Okay. They look at it and go, we're going to war. You're a member of the race. You're going to war with us. Yes, the little ones don't get to hold guns and explosives. Something to do with the fact that little guys have a tendency of, doing weird things like struggling to pull the pin on something just because they want to know what it does. Not a good option. Derek goes, what are your thoughts if the person you are with had a problem with cheating before you got together? Um, does that mean it will? Whoa. You really wrote that in a twisted fashion. Oh, there we go. Does it linger in your head? Maybe you're next. Here's the thing. I will take that sort of thing. Is it possible if I decide to go with somebody that's done that? In this case, she hasn't. Okay. But would I keep it in mind? Same as when I'm going to meet somebody, going to possibly getting in business. If somebody tells me something negative has happened in their past, will I keep an eye open for it? Certainly. So is it a potential possibility? Absolutely. To the point that I've had my last two relationships, you know, once I was divorced, the next two out of the three walked out on me with no warning and no real indicator it was going to happen. Needless to say, I told Kira I am fully expecting, even when she gets up here, for her to go on to wander off to grocery and to get groceries. It may just be simply to wander off to get groceries and just not come home. Okay. Am I fully expecting her to do that? Absolutely. Am I still planning on marrying her when she gets up here? Absolutely. This is just something she's got to realize. I won't give the third degree to make sure everything goes. It's one of those things that will simply be there. And I don't know how to get rid of that particular thought. I wish I did, but telling myself she hasn't done anything wrong, I've been doing that. That doesn't help a whole lot. You know, now we are an hour and a half in. I'm not going away. Well, I am going away, but I've run out of water, so I will be back momentarily. one of the drawbacks of it being this hot is you get dehydrated really fast. Hey, what do we got here? Jimmy, how you doing? Didn't see you come in, primarily because I was out. Yeah, Jimmy Gonzalez is just saying, I set up my brother's ex guy she cheated on. Now she's alone, just like he is. Yeah, unfortunately, the one thing I always look at is when people are having a complication, you do your best to stay neutral. It's like, okay, I've had countless people. Well, really, I've had in excess of 100,000 clients under my belt. Okay, about 65% of them were were relationship oriented. Okay, ouch. The whole 9 yards. Like the one thing that you always look at is, I take a look at it this way: if I can help a relationship come back together, I will. Will I make certain compromises myself? Not a prayer. But there is a very simple rule of law of life that I live by. Actually, 3. Be true to yourself first. In other words, have your own boundaries, whatever they are. And when people are dealing with you, enforce them to the T. That's your boundary. That's where you stand it. 2, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Okay. Now, whenever you're going to, as you put it there, Jimmy, set somebody up, the one thing you got to ask is that something you would desire somebody to do to you? Because there's always 2 parts of an equation. Okay. Like, yes, I had two girlfriends walk out on me without warning. Clearly, I was part of the problem. What I did, I don't know. Okay. I've got my own suspicions, but fidelity wasn't one of them. But the third law is energy out, energy in. Meaning whatever you put your effort into, that's what you're stacking the deck in favor of you having to deal with. And I'm just scanning down a bit further here. Oh, I don't blame you there at all. And Derek, I appreciate that. When I started looking at the whole 9 yards here, the idea of an alien invasion doesn't add up. Okay. Now, a couple of things we have to realize. First of all, they don't think like humans. And there is a lot of them that are absolutely afraid of what humans can do. Because the reality is we are way stronger as a society than we are individually. This is one of the things that people aren't getting. Let me put it in, you think of it this way. Humans look at adoption and going, oh, that's a very special or very important thing. Now, there was one genius that I use the term really loosely. When you take a look at most reptilians don't actually know who their parents are, because most reptilians still give birth, they still lay eggs, and all of the eggs are moved into the hatchery. Okay, but it's in the case of the Srozatians, the little guys, the youngest of the reptilians, are left in there with the eggs because they're born knowing they've got to help. And it's the little guys that roll the eggs around to make sure they don't get flat on one side or end up with a deformation problem. Okay, so in the Srozatian case, they leave the little guys in there, and they get out of the nursery when they grow up big enough to climb out over the lip at which point they're moved to another section. Okay, now Teclex also get raised in a nursery, but the moment Teclex hatch, they're yanked out of the nursery and put into another bin because Teclex will eat the new ones without even waiting. What do we got here? Yeah, Susie. I gotta go back and find out. Oh, there we are. Ferret was asking, do aliens have romantic liaisons with humans? Some do. Okay, but they are the ones that do are relegated to number one, human sized. Okay, and most are humanoid. Okay, most reptilians, if you get a hybrid, that's a vat job. Because oddly enough, there aren't many humans that will go to bed with a lizard. Okay, and that's literally why we call them reptilian. Not because they are, but because they do look that way. Okay, I was talking to one person. One person came I spotted him in a chat room one day, and he made a brilliant comment. He goes, "I'm a naturally conceived hybrid, half breed Anunnaki." And I flat out called him. I said, "Not a prayer." I said, the odds of that are, yes, there are shorter Anunnaki. Absolutely. But the average adult Anunnaki that is able to procreate, humans are 5.5 to 6 feet tall on average. Okay, when they get to procreation age or to maturity. Anunnaki, when they get to maturity, are somewhere between 15 and 30 feet tall. Now, bear in mind, they are built very similar to humans as far as physiologically speaking goes. Okay, now with that in mind, can you even functionally conceive a natural half breed, as in they go to bed in the same fashion that humans go to bed and come out with a pregnancy? Is it even functionally possible? But do they have romantic runs? Absolutely. And some of them will certainly take to humans. Let's take a look. Let's see. Just going back here. Just looking at some of the past things. The reality of it is this. Okay, if you think if you think of aliens this way, okay, on the whole, aliens, no matter whether we're talking alien as in off-worlder or ancient race, ultimately they are very similar to humans in as much as they desire to be respected, they desire to be listened to, they desire what they consider a warm, safe place to live and eat. Okay, they desire to have a full belly. Ultimately, it's the same thing. Different rules, different restrictions, and what have you. At least with human society. Okay, with human society, yes, there are pockets where it happens. You don't agree with the government, they'll kill you. Okay, in off-world society, some of the races, all you gotta do is think wrong, and they'll kill you. Okay, fortunately, humans are not controlled in the telepathic side. What do we got here? Yeah, and unfortunately, Derek, when you're looking at fish farms, Like I grew up on the island, so I understand that all too well. But you got to remember, there's a lot of things that we look at there. An awful pile of things. Now, what do we got? Derek, your feet have got to be a good 4 inches longer than mine. I think mine are size 10. And that's because I'm in boots. One of the things we have to look at, okay, is humans. The reality is if we start focusing on the similarities between people, okay, all of a sudden you'll find there is way more similarity between people than there are differences. I mean, let's face it. Take a look, name any nationality that is in a so-called first world country anyway. If you've got eye problems, you get things that are similar to these in order to straighten out your eyes. By the way, works backwards, it actually destroys them, but that's a long story. The off-worlders, they've got a cute problem. Okay, oh, your eyes don't work? That means you can't outrun the thing that's chasing us. And that works out well for me. Yeah, there goes, I look like Casper and Casper the friendly ghost. Very pale. Well, that I suspect is better than going really big head and pudgy body, which is also Casper the friendly ghost. I mean, myself, all I have to do is just walk out in the shade in Old Town. But off-worlders are wonderful people. You just got to realize that you need to understand their protocols, just like they have to understand yours. The other thing you got to look at is they've got the great big consortium ships. And I was talking to somebody the other day. I forget who it was that made the comment, but they said what was said was that they had seen a picture of an alien craft with spires pointing in all different directions. That was definitely Photoshopped because you don't have a ship that has spires all over the place. Well, I'm telling you, yeah, they do. The consortium has ships with spires all over the place, but these are ships that are not designed for atmospheric endeavors. They are designed to stay in outer space, which means aerodynamics don't matter. Okay, the other thing you also have to remember, especially if we're looking at a potential alien invasion, human communication is line of sight. This is why they've got satellites to bounce the signal off of. The off-worlders don't. They use triphasic communication that will pass straight through a solid object and recoalesce on the other side of the solid object. Net result, they don't require the satellites to bounce anything. They cut right through the middle of the planet or star or whatever they're working with. Yeah, unfortunately, that's one of those little complications. See, I'm lucky, Derek. My heritage is primarily Scottish and Welsh. Unless you take into consideration the fact that when I was born, I was mottled green and black. Net result, my diet is literally well over 50% meat, which apparently is really bad for the human genome. For me, if I don't get it, I start to get ill. Or more to the point, I start to feel real sluggish. It's funny when I went years ago, I went to the doctor because she was worried about the fact I hadn't gone for a physical. So I went, and she goes, she's looking at my blood work and she goes, "What's going? What is your diet like?" I said, "I don't know, 50% meatish." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you know that roast chicken that you can buy?" And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "That's a snack." And she goes, "Oh, you mean like you take a leg and a wing? And a leg and maybe a wing?" No, 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 no. You don't get it. If somebody else is there, they may get a leg and possibly a wing. I eat the rest of the chicken. You know, I'll sit down and I'll eat a rack of ribs with no side, right? And but your good cholesterol is only a fraction below dead center, and your bad cholesterol is only a fraction above. What the heck is that? I said, "I don't know. I didn't have time for my health to fail." So, you know, she took the report and she throws it over her shoulder and goes, "Well, at least somebody knows what your body does." Well, I will tell you, for me, it's very necessary. You know, however, the human genome, if you take a look at the teeth, the human genome is clearly designed for an omnivorous diet. Okay. But what I find is if you don't get enough meat in your diet, your energy levels collapse. You know, the problem that I run, the only complication I run into, as it were, is when you get to meet some of these other races. Okay, you take a look at the most of the reptilian races. They are dominant carnivores, as in they like to chase down their meal. And yes, in the Techlex case, if they ever invite you for supper, don't accept. Do not. It's just a bad idea. Okay, primarily because you're the one on the table. On the other hand, if you ever run into a true dwarf, and they do exist, and you'll see them once in a while, on the surface. These guys, 90% of their food is fermented. Okay, and yeah, they do drink a phenomenal amount. Like I said, their food's all fermented, so net result, you've got people that literally spend most of their day pickled. Yeah, there's no doubt there, Ferret. I did that. You know, I not paid attention to what I was doing, and I hit 2 years ago. I hit 246. Okay, and I said there is no way I'm hitting 250. So I did what the doctor said was impossible. Cut back on the amount I was eating. Switched over prime. Just made sure I got a lot more in the way of protein instead of my pastas, which by the way turn straight into sugar or rice or bread. Net result, I dropped 50 pounds. Now, I've hit a bit of a plateau, and I think I've started to drop again. But I was plateaued around 197 to 199. Never broke the 200. But the other day I was checking and I dropped down to 195 again. You know, but I've also started exercising again, which is great. By the way, couldn't do that when I threw my back out. The other thing that people have to realize, you know, mankind is supposed to be the caretaker of this planet. Mankind is failing miserably. Okay. And, I actually wrote a poem to this effect that, mankind, forgets you're part of the cycle of life. You're part of the food chain. Okay. And the reality is, if Esau gets fed up enough, now you know her as Mother Earth, maybe Gaia, maybe not Mother Nature. She told me her name was Esau. Okay. That's okay. That works for me there, Ferret. And yes, I realize that means cattle or whatever. Um, you know, but the neat part about it, from my standpoint, you know, is I take a look at it and go, I couldn't afford, I did not desire to go up any higher. I've dropped. I'm just looking at this. And where do we go here? Yeah, I'm probably upwards of that at this point now, too, there, Black Dragon. Up at the 75% mark. Yeah, I haven't lost 100 pounds, mind you. Okay, according to the Canadian Medical Society, if you look at their charts, at my height, I should be only 145 pounds. Now, looking at my frame, what you can see now, yes, I could lose this, and that I'm working on. But can you picture what I'd look like if I cut 50 pounds off my weight? Yeah, but then, Derek, you're a little on the taller side, too. You know, yeah, no, I'm actually not 6'2", but thanks so much, Derek. I'm actually somewhere between 5'7" and 5'8". Mind you, because of the fact I wear a 2-inch heel, you're looking at 5'10". But no, I've never been that tall. Even at my tallest, when I was wearing a 3-foot platform. No, I've been weighing myself for years. And no, Bryson, that side of it, I just look at it this way. You take a look at, like, we're looking at this and the dwarves, by the way, do have a real penchant for shiny things, primarily gold. Okay, and now they like silver almost as much because it polishes beautifully. Okay. Now, of course, when you take a look at the gnomish community or the deep dwarves or the korbor, depending on, and yes, by the way, guys, that's something that is it's very important from my standpoint. Okay. Whoop. I mean, I've already told you guys I write science fiction and science fantasy, depending on how you look at it. Okay. These races are all ones I've personally dealt with, but this is essentially a reference book. It'll give you the data. Okay. But what I turned around and did was when I wrote The Birth of the Wolf Pack, I included the races that you run into here. Okay. You'll run into the personalities and the emotional traits of them as well. Yeah. Fair to say, it's expensive to buy quality protein, but when you cut out all the processed crap, it spends way less. Uh-oh. Oh, good. He got it. Don't know what's going on there. Don't care. Well, I do, but it'll be sorted out. Anyway, where are we? Okay. Have to deal with that. That's my other hat. Okay, I'll be right back, guys. Thanks, sir. My apologies. Front door rings. I live in an apartment block. Kind of got to figure out what's going on. Anyway, that being said, guys, my apologies. Where do we go here? No, actually, it was a friend of mine was one of the gamers actually dropping off he was dropping off a book for gaming that I don't have. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's the funny thing is some of the animal, a lot of the critters, what happens in here, not only do I include the races, but the races the animals I require, considering the fact that, as I've told you, I play Dungeons and Dragons, many of the races that you'll run into, if I need an animal, I'll pull it straight out of the monster manual because they work really well and saves me a lot of hassles. I just changed the name to protect the innocent. The funny thing there, Derek, years ago, Hollywood, there was a company in Hollywood asking to tell my life story. Okay. And, they talked a beautiful game. Then they sent me the contract. I looked at the guy and I went, okay, there's 2 clauses here that are going to be changed or we don't have a deal. So the guy turns around, the sales rep turned around and asked his boss. His boss goes, no, we don't change those at all. I said, take your contract and go away. Right. I mean, I was polite because the sales guy had been really nice. And what ended up happening is he turns around and he says, but you don't understand what money you're giving up. I said, I understand perfectly what money I'm giving up. What you're having trouble with is how little I care. Because the fact of the matter is, the way I've set my company, the way I've set the one I own up, 80% of my net profit is going to be going back out to the community, to co-workers, to the workers, the employees, the contributors, and the buyers, and the clients and customers. And Derek goes, I miss playing Dungeons and Dragons. I used to go to a comic book store and we'd play all through the night. There's only one store in Kelowna. Now, I don't know where you are, Derek, Derek. I started playing June of 1976. The first weekend, the first Saturday of June of 1976 was my first it was when I went into gaming fully. Okay, and from there until present, I have been averaging 2 games a week two games a week with people at the dining room table gaming. Even to the point that when I had my stroke in 2018, I didn't miss my New Year's Eve game. We still gamed. I got out of the hospital 2 days later in order to go home and game. Now, I didn't tell them I was going home to game. I told them I wasn't spending New Year's Eve in the hospital. But that being said, one thing I should point out, okay. Oh, and by the way, guys, if you do like the stream, if you'd be kind enough to give us a thumbs up, do subscribe to the channel, and then share the daylights out of it. That would be appreciated. Okay, I am now at a point where I am looking to different places, to different shows now to actually start promoting the books that I've got. Okay, Derek's going, what character do you play with? Well, right now, I'm actually playing 3 different games. Okay, we've got 3 nights we game a week right now, but one character is a half orc, half drow. He is a fighter mage psionicist. Okay, I'm playing Shadowrun where I've got a troll. Now what the heck is he? He's a, try to remember what the heck he is. Oh, I've got a troll mage. Okay. No, I had to back out of DMing when I had my stroke. I'm only just getting back to where I can actually do something with it and may well consider it again. I DM'd for years up until my stroke in 2018. I actually was a DM. But I am looking, it's been brought to my attention that it might be an idea again. I had to give it up because I just couldn't track the system anymore. But what you'll find, what I found, I enjoyed gaming so much. Every one of the primary characters in here is built by a gamer. Okay, it's based on either a character that another gamer built. Okay, or they're from people and they're based on people and or situations I've personally run into. Yeah, my first character was actually he was a dwarven cleric. Yeah, my buddy, my Derek, my buddy, the game master that we've got, he has told me a lot about Dritz Dritz, you know, and it's a riot. A lot of what goes on there is just absolutely a riot. Okay, you'll get a kick out of not in this book, but in book 12, the Return to Paradise. There's a character that shows up that is an absolute riot to write, but I don't know where he came from. So I'm actually making really good headway with tying off book 12 now. Finally got back in the right stream to get it done. But again, I take my knowledge of the off-worlders, my knowledge of the ancient races, my knowledge of people in general, and tie it all together. This is why I can look in the mirror in the morning and go, no, what mankind is doing is going to go backwards. Well, to be honest with you, Derek, and I do believe, Derek, am I correct in presuming you've already got book 1, right? The Birth of the Wolfpack. To be clear, Jeremiah Wollstrand is a character I personally built. Oh, okay. I keep forgetting who's got what. I've got one sitting here for you. All I gotta do I already have an address for you? I think so. Give me 5 seconds. Because I realized I think you've been having trouble getting it up here. The answer to that, Ferret, at this point, the answer is no. I was working with a publisher that was supposed to help with that and did not. Where are we? Derek. Okay. Now, Derek, this is literally to you, and I'll get back to you in half sec, Ferret. Derek. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yes, absolutely you can. There's a place, I've never received it myself, but presumably you know how that works. I've got your address here, so that's the easy part. And I know you've been bugging me for a long time. What I need to know, the only thing I need to know from you, okay, because I know you'll end up paying for it. That's the easy part. One of the advantages of being an empath. The only thing I really have to know, okay, is if you're looking for book 1 or book 1 and 2. Well, technically it's 10 and 11. 12 isn't out yet. Okay, that's the big issue. Yeah, I've played the Ranger Druid. Well, most of the time they complain. Okay, that's the easy part, Derek. And the funny part here is I'm backwards. Now, many people will tell you, I'll send you the money. The reality of it is, I'm just simply going to trust you'll figure that out. Now, these, because of the fact that it cost me a fortune to ship them, let me just double check that. I just want to make sure I'm giving the right information. And no, I'm not going to give your address. Where are we? Okay. So we are definitely looking at that. So what you're looking at, Derek, is $60 a piece. Okay, but that includes shipping. Will they be autographed? Absolutely. Okay, but you are right. The stories are designed for you to feel as though you're right smack in the middle of it. It is quite possible there, Black Dragon. You know, I mean, I'm looking into the ebook, by the way, Ferret. I'm going to have to figure out how to make that happen. It may be quicker, and more effective for the moment because Tech and I don't get along well. But I am trying to get to work with a government-backed company, to try and help me make that sort of thing happen. And that's one of the big things that I desire to have happen. But I worked with a couple of big publishers that said they would help with all that. They did jack, except cripple me so I couldn't get on Amazon. But I am looking into that side of getting it turned into ebooks, getting it turned into, like, right now, I'm already writing all 12 of them. But I am looking at possible PDF outlets, pictures, the whole 9 yards. Okay. Including I'm going into the posters and what have you. I've already got things worked out for a lot of that. The one thing, and again, I take a look at this, even one of the side books that's going to be tied to this saga is one that takes you into outer space. Okay. Now, the saga itself takes place on Earth. Okay. And I did read the entire story a while back. Okay. I read it live. And no, I can't tell you exactly what day. Okay. I have read excerpts out of it. But, yeah, Derek, in your case, yeah, well, it sort of depends on, that kind of depending. See, I'm working local. I've got a couple of programmers, but I certainly don't turn down help. Computers and I have a really weird relationship. Everybody knows with a cell phone, there's such a thing as pocket dialing. Everybody knows it's that. I can take this phone, set it on my dining room table up front, come back to my room, and my phone up front will phone somebody. Thankfully, it usually phones my other half. Okay, I was on the phone one day, and my cell phone phoned my little brother while I was still on the phone. Okay, and of course we had the problem just about a week ago now, I think, where I went to do a live feed, and YouTube kicked me out of the stream and wouldn't let the stream go. So when we're talking technology being weird, I mean, we are talking about technology being really weird. But this is one of those neat little things that I look at. Thankfully, my effect on electronics hasn't had a negative impact on the aircraft I've been on. Hopefully, it'll stay that way. The other thing you'll notice, Derek, I've got the 2 panels up there. Okay, right up on top, where? Right there. Okay, those 2 panels are done this way. Okay, you take a look at the back of the books. When you line them up, okay, they become a complete collage. Now, there's 12 books in all that will do that. They'll all work together to that effect. Same as this one, as the binding. We've got a complete picture that spans the entire binding. Well, that's always fun, Ferret. I used to have a backwards clock. Oh, that's the easy part. I'll save you a whole lot of looking. Keep your eyeballs peeled for about 10 seconds. Probably a little longer than that, but we go copy. Here it is, Derek. This is the easy part. My email is right there. Okay, that's the easiest one to find me at. Because that's what I'm into literally every day. Usually more often than not. More often than once a day. But that's my action. That's the email address to get a hold of me. That also, for everybody else, also is the email address used to access PayPal. But I do understand, Derek, you've had troubles with that. I don't even begin to try and understand why. Okay, but, that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Now, could I post my phone number? Certainly, I've done it before. And the way I figure it, people go, oh, don't tell people where you live. Terry, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I look at it this way. Donald Trump, and I know that's a four-letter word for a lot of people. Before he became president, he already had a complete dossier on me. And the CIA showed up on my doorstep looking for me by name regarding UFOs. And then, of course, Hollywood got a hold of me because they wanted to tell my life story. And then they wanted to lie about it. I don't look at it one way or the other. It's just a point in fact. From my end, I've made my mistakes in politics and what have you. But I look at it this way. They're still human, which means there's going to be flaws. There's going to be hiccups. Okay. But when you think about what you were looking at, there were worse outcomes. Okay. Now, do understand, I don't follow politics. I'm not about to go into them. Okay. I look at it this way. I get called off-world to help sort out disputes so they don't have to go to conflict. Okay. Quite frankly, I'm a pacifist. You wouldn't know it by the way that I write. If you take a look at this particular story, the first chapter, there is a hint of a little bit of a fight going on. Now, it starts off in a bar. The second chapter is a fight at 10-1 odds. 10-1 odds, 7 dead, 2 badly wounded, 1 got away unscathed. That's against the pacifist in the wolf pack. Okay, that's against the guy that doesn't want to fight. Okay, and then it just gets a little out of hand. So I mean, from my standpoint, I keep looking at and just remind people as best I can. Holy mackerel! No wonder my throat's starting to go. Do you realize, guys, we have been on the line this time for 2 hours and 24 minutes? And with that in mind, I am going to wind this down. Derek, I will keep an eye open for your email. For the rest of you, if you do have questions, absolutely reach out. That email works. Okay, that's the one I live in. Okay, if you got questions, absolutely drop me a line. I'll do my best to answer. I don't know what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. I'll figure that out. But if you have a suggestion for a topic, drop me a line and let me know. Yeah, I gave up on them for exactly the same reason, Black. And let me just double check here. Go there. And Derek. Okay, as soon as I get off the stream here, I will answer that and send it to you. Where did we go? Right there. Now, that being said, guys, thank you so much for sharing your time with me. I really do appreciate it. And I will be back again tomorrow, assuming I don't die. Okay, which is a possibility. Until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.